So this, like, it looks like we're going to review this. We're not. We're reviewing this. This is Perfect Room by Denise Audio. A fantastic room reverb plugin with a lot of features packed into one tiny little package. And I just really love how it handles reverb. I have only used it for a short time and it's already going to be in my permanent toolkit. So let's dig into it. We just heard the beat kind of nice and wet with it, with one that I've tweaked a little bit and I was playing with. So let's just hear the dry beat right quick. It's dry. Dry as buttering. Let me turn on a default template with Perfect Room, and let's just hear how this sounds. Is it just me? I don't know. To me, that sounds incredibly smooth. Most reverbs that I try to use basically translation. Most reverbs that I use wind up feeling very tinny, sometimes almost sharp on the ears. This does not. I don't know how they do it, but I love the algorithms that come built into this thing. Let's dig into all the knobs and whatnot. First, you got your classic mix dial, not a knob in this case. 0. Dry signal. What's fun is that the spectrogram changes depending on whether you're listening to the dry or wet signal. When it's dry, it's gray. It's like that's what's actually coming in. When it's pink or 100%, that's the reverb, the actual wet signal. You have your reverb tail, which can be nothing. Per the spectrogram, it's basically the same as having your mix turned to 0. That is interesting to me, because most reverbs will go down to like 0.1 millisecond or something. They never go to 0. I don't know what the difference is, but I kind of like that it's different. But you can go from 0 milliseconds to just a few. To a ton, like 5 seconds. Even with it maxed out, it just doesn't sound that muddy to me. Most reverbs I would feel are just like washed with frequencies to the point where it's just not even enjoyable to hear when it's that high. But that, I can hear some applications for that in like ambient music and whatnot. So that's kind of the initial starters. We have a high pass and a low pass filter. Both of these are pretty much in a lot of different kinds of reverbs. But I just love how the filters themselves sound. Let's just listen to just the wet signal. Turning up the high pass. The high pass doesn't hurt my ears. This is nice. I just love that. Just something about how the high pass filter is being processed just sounds gorgeous. It almost makes me wonder if it's actually turning down the resonance the higher the frequency gets. And the low pass filter, first off, I'd like to point out just how shiny that sounds with it turned off. So, I mean, these are fairly sharp and surgical feeling filters that never feel lifeless, almost no matter how much you boost or cut in some ways. So that's all really good. There's a pre-delay. Nice if you want to give it a little bit of an echo and preserve the transience of your dry sound without it getting muddied by reverb or just making weird stuff. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't. Input and output, basically this just increases the gain or decreases it for either. I find that this knob, this sort of fader dial is deceptive. It looks short, but you can go up to 48 dB. What does that sound like? I like my ears. I won't show you, but I'll show you 8. I mean, really solid volume control. There is also a couple of different ways to handle stereo width within this plugin. There's your width dial. 0 is mono. And 100 is stereo. I'd like to take a moment to appreciate one nice thing about this room reverb is that even with it super wide, I don't really ever have phasing issues. I say as I have phasing issues. But they're not as horrible as I might normally experience. So you can see where it dips just a little past 0, where the phase is a little tiny bit off. Some of the reverbs I have would be like all over this map, not at all mono compatible. This one can actually do mono fairly well. The other control for handling the stereo imaging is the split button in this little corner right here. So if I click on that to turn it blue, it sounds kind of mono-ish. I can tweak my width knob to hear some subtle differences. But there's really not much until I turn this on. So I like the split thing. I keep that on. It's great. There's a couple of tiny controls up here that are kind of fun and experimental in some ways. So first you have this flip button that literally reverses the reverb. An unusual feature to throw in a reverb, but there's some fun stuff you could do with that. I can't even imagine all the applications. There's timbre, which just very slightly adjusts the sound itself. I'm not entirely sure if it functions like an equalizer or a compressor, but you can kind of hear a subtle difference with it on versus off. So it sounds a little flatter at 0 and a little brighter at 100. On the note of flatness and brightness, you can also choose from 5 different algorithms that strongly alter your sound. So we've been listening to flat. I'm going to turn it to bright. And the nice thing is, turning it bright isn't just as simple as adjusting a high pass or low pass. Like, I can apply these now and alter them now, and it'll affect the signal in a different way, and it sounds like, than it does when it's set to flat. So like it's affecting this bright algorithm instead of the flat side, so it sounds different, even with the high pass and low pass being adjusted. Versus dealing with it flat. So I can use that to make it sound bright, but if I put it back on bright, it's still different. It's unique. There's bright XL. Love how that sounds. Just great. Then there's dark. And if for some reason your kick doesn't have enough reverb, there's dark XL. That's a setting I'm personally not going to use a whole lot. It's just too much bass. But you get the kind of idea. There's another little experimental section, which kind of changes another side of the algorithm. So there's natural, triangle, and square. We've been listening to kind of natural sounding, more room reverbs. Let's go over to triangle, see what happens. It's washy. Like it with bright timbre. Basically the triangle is a lot more of an ambient kind of reverb. So just, it's as smooth as the natural sounding one is. It just like takes that and just somehow smooths it even more. It's like it's just butter smooth. And a lengthy reverb. The same tail length feels like it drags a lot longer. Then there's square, which just screams 80s. So I love that it has these multiple different ways to process the reverb. Like going from square to triangle to natural, I've never seen anything like that in any other reverb plugin, so I just love that those are there. There are 3 additional features for altering the reverb itself, and go back to natural for this. So there is a shimmer reverb built in. You click on it once to open it up, and you click and drag on it to determine how much this shimmer is applied. So for this, I'm going to turn the mix up pretty high so we can hear just the wet reverb. Play. Ow, hang on. Let me turn that down a little. So that's different. This literally just takes the reverb and adds a low octave, like literally takes it an octave lower or an octave higher to give it a sort of shimmery or dark and rich sound. So with the source, that's literally the main original reverb and sound. There's your low octave. There's a lot of fun that you can do with that. I can just picture making a big thumpy bass sound. Then there's your high octave. And it's funny because you can literally hear just the kind of time, the almost sort of stretching, digital stretching that you hear when you pitch things up even within a sampler. So I think it's interesting that it's literally just doing that. But when you kind of blend everything, this gives you the ability to add an extra shine or shimmer to your reverb, which is, I love how it does it. It's just beautiful. There's a detune section, which, okay, so if you click on the right or left, yeah, one click at a time, it opens it up. So this one's a little more confusing. There's wow, shake, and speed. Like so, wow. Don't forget you have the actual wet dry section by clicking on dragging in the middle. So if I turn that all the way up, we have the wow. So you hear just some subtle movements, some very subtle, almost phasing, pitch warping, something like that. The speed dial affects wow and shake both. So if I turn the speed up, I feel like that can get pretty weird. Then there's shake. So that, I don't understand the application of the shake or the wow. Like, I suppose it can actually be nice in that it can add a little bit of movement to the reverb. To me, that part sounds a little odd. It feels like an organ, and I don't feel like my drum should sound like an organ. So this might sound really good on certain things, and not as good on others. I can picture that sounding really good on some synths. We can have the main synth kind of dry and just beautiful straight tones, and then have the reverb just wibbly wobbly. So there's that, and my personal favorite feature is the ducker. So this is something that WA Production tried to do with their Mutant Reverb and Mutant Delay series. I just didn't like how it turned out. Basically, this allows you to compress the reverb by itself, independent of the dry signal. So let's listen. Why won't you turn on? Come on. I still haven't. No, I can do that one. Pretty. Is it because these others are turned on or something? Because they're not? Interesting. I have no idea why it's doing this. It worked just fine earlier. Does it do it in the other instance? Ah, I have a problem with this one. Let us delete it. That's an interesting glitch. I haven't run into that before. Where is it? Perfect. There it is. Okay, so let me tweak that again. Now let's tweak the duck. So turning on the Ducker, let's turn it up to 100%. Alright, there we go. So you literally have all the same controls that you'd find in a lot of different compressors. Threshold, when the Ducker triggers, like at what volume level. The attack, like how quickly the compression is applied. Release, how quickly it goes back to normal volume. Ratio, hold, all that good stuff. So I really like the Ducker because it gives you a ton of control over the reverb without having to use extra compressors and setting up send routing or additional routing chains that just get complicated real fast. You can just compress the reverb and let the drive signal go through untouched. That's just amazing. Like, I've literally only ever seen one other plugin try to do that, and frankly this one does it a lot better than WA Production does. Just pristine, beautiful stuff. So, in case y'all couldn't tell throughout the review, I really like this plugin. If you're looking at it simply as like a reverb, you might be like, oh, it's another one. Okay, it sounds good, whatever. For me personally, I have a real problem trying to dial in room reverb style sounds with a lot of my reverbs. Like the one I use the most for room style would be R4. And that one I still have a trouble kind of controlling it. It's a little too complex for me. But this just takes all that confusion, simplifies it immensely, makes it very easy to get a beautiful room reverb sound without having to spend a ton of time tweaking it all. So for me, it's like 5 out of 5, thumbs up. I can't recommend this plugin enough if you're looking for a good room style reverb. Now, I've only shown you this thing with drums. It also sounds great on a variety of instruments, such as pianos. Like right here, I actually set this one to a triangle setting in bright with a decently long tail, and just, I love how this thing sounds. I'm going to try to look cool and play piano for you. Can you tell I'm skilled? But anyway, I just love that. Just the pristine. Like, I can come up with some beautiful ambient reverbs kind of across the board with a wide variety of reverbs. Just the way this one handles it, it's more subtle, it's more beautiful kind of as a result. It's not too much. It's really easy to dial in just the right amount. So you can use it for all kinds of things, not just for percussion, not just for room style reverb, but it definitely shines the most as a room reverb. So that's my review. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit like and subscribe down below. Hit the notification bell if you want to see this face a lot more. Let me know in the comments what plugin you'd like for me to review next. Outside of that, thanks guys. Have a blessed day.